This is the big drainage ditch, but when the ditch turns north, that's where our property goes to.
Where it goes south.
Yeah.
Maybe like a map, maybe just a basic, simple map, outline or whatever, would be easier to understand than even addresses.
So if we want the road guy to mow from the edge of the fire barn, what you call the edge of the fire barn property, the tree line,
Yeah.
to the east, we just add that to him. It would only get mowed 3 times a year, but
There's no houses there, right?
well, there's one or 2 houses on that side, but
We don't take care of that side, do we?
no.
Yeah, I would, because it gets steeper as you go down, I would leave that with the gentleman with the appropriate roadside.
This is for them, so we'll just tell them that
Right.
they stop at the tree line on the east side
Correct.
of the property.
Correct, but we're just defining that.
I know.
Right.
East side of property or east side of fire barn?
Stop at east tree line.
East tree line.
Yeah, I think there's like a post out there, I don't know, or like a little box. I don't know what that is, phone line or cable or box or something. And then south, there would be that drive, if you go in the west gravel road drive and come around the south, it kind of takes you to that walking path that comes out behind here. You want that cut? I mean, we had been cutting it back behind the third and the fourth ball diamond.
You gotta cut between the third and the fourth ball diamond.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, there's the kind of a rustic drive that goes back there that we had been cutting.
Because people were walking it, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, somebody wants to.
So where the parking lot is actually on that side of the back diamond you're talking about, right?
Well, you have the field there, but like the fence to the last 2 ball diamonds to the south,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a little rustic driveway back there, and we had cut back there also from like the one tree by the yard waste monthly dumpster, going back to the little walk path that comes out through.
As far as I know, the back boundaries were right when I drove back there. And I looked back there because,
But I think you should mow from the ball diamonds to the road, that rustic road.
Okay.
And then south of the rustic road, you don't need to mow.
Okay. I don't know what there is, 10 feet that's between that fence and the road.
I actually,
you're talking about the
sorry.
path that comes out behind here?
Yeah, there's a path where you can,
goes through the
behind
woods.
the office here, you can take a, you know, a path that takes you back there,
Yeah.
and then it kind of circles
It
back.
comes
around.
out over there.
Yeah, it comes out along the very, very south end of the property.
Yeah.
We've been cutting it.
I would say
Whenever
continue
we
cutting
cut,
it. If you go look out the back door, you can see where the path comes out of the woods. That's what she's talking about, that path that goes to the back of the property
Well,
and then cuts
south
over.
of it, where that path comes out on the south end of the property.
So it's in the
We
woods
cut
or
back
no?
there.
It's in the woods.
I mean, I would say if it's grass, then it probably needs to be cut, because if you
Yeah.
don't cut it, it's gonna get overgrown.
Well, it's a weird path that goes through the woods that they've been cutting, and then it goes to the back south line, and then along the back south line. Somebody had to have cut it at one point, so somebody had a walking trail. So I would say continue
Is
to
that
cut it.
someplace that you cut with the mower that includes part of the 5 $1.75, or is that weed
Yeah,
whacking you do back
No,
there as well?
no, he always sends
Cutting.
more to the tractor through there.
Okay.
And then we had been cutting the west side of that gravel drive too over here.
We've already addressed that.
So you won't have to worry about that,
Okay.
but back here I would cut the walkway that goes through the woods.
Well, we'll call it the path,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the path.
so including the path.
And then I think they should mow from the south edge of the ball diamonds to the rustic road or
Right.
because that's kind of where that path comes through, right?
Correct.
I think that Kelly had a fantastic idea. We could get, just a GIS or Google Earth Maps image of the property and, just outline it because it is very confusing.
Oh, it's also quite massive.
I understand, but I think that might be helpful.
Yeah.
Just so everybody's really on the same page, because, there's all these little offshoots of, this is or this isn't. It might be easier to just make sure everybody understands it the same way.
Right.
No problem.
Okay. We made it all the way to weed whacking.
Did we have
Seems to be exactly what we discussed.
2 hours a week up to 8 hours a month? What was that?
So this contract reads, it's not, we agreed to the $90 an hour. The contractor is pre-authorized to weed whack up to 2 hours per week. Anytime more than that, he needs approval, must be approved by the township board prior to working.
I do have a question, because when we say 8 hours, when you take into account these 5-week months that pop up,
Well, we're not gonna put 8 hours in there, we're gonna leave it at 2
2
hours
hours
a
a
week.
week.
Yeah, so if there's 5
Yeah.
weeks, it's 10 hours.
Yeah, because that helps to be able to make sure that it all looks good.
Or like say, if you start to weed whack around the ball diamond fence, and you keep track of your watch, and, okay, you're only 3/4 of the way around, you stop after your 2 hours for that week, and then leave 1/4 of the ball field for next week? Or do you finish it and deduct that time off the next week?
I would finish it,
Finish and deduct that
Deduct
time
it.
off the next week.
That's what I would think, common sense, so
Yeah.
that you're not leaving a weed whacking job
yeah,
partially unfinished. Especially when the fields are being used in the spring.
I have no problem with the job you guys are doing. It's a good job. I'm only looking at the expense of it. The $90 an hour is killing us. And I'm not saying you're
Right,
not worth
right.
it, I'm just saying
And if
for the
it's,
budget we have,
right, and there was a ton more weed whacking, especially with no spraying, because there were so many areas that looked horrible, without the weed whack.
But when did that budget year start?
April.
April.
Like April 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
So even then, whenever you get a contractor in here, and they can run up between April and May, and then what is left for all summer long?
It takes a lot to get started for the season.
I mean,
Well-
if you guys want the budget to run, it should run from one contractor from June, or from the 1st of June to the end of May.
change our term here to,
What is it saying here?
this is from June 1st to May 31st.
Yeah.
So maybe the term needs to be from,
Oh, this says July to June.
Yeah, but it's, we're we changed it to June.
From June to
1st
May.
To May.
but our budget goes from,
Yeah,
That's all right, that's our budget. This is lawn mowing. This is fine.
But they're
Okay,
they're
so,
probably gonna
you
want
know-
it before June first.
April to November.
oh, yeah.
Cause I mean, the only reason this I think said June first was cause the previous people went through the end of May.
Right,
So
right.
maybe this should not say June, maybe it should
That's
say
what I'm thinking, it should say
at least May first.
May or whenever our budget changes were. So,
well, when we awarded it, when we opened contract, we actually said it was to run through May 31st. That's what we actually said.
Well, through May, but I think we need one to start it in May. So nobody's not gonna cut grass till June first.
no, we have to.
I think that the reason we ended up in this boat was when we had accepted the bid for 22 to 23, that kind of set the line going from June to May.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think you can make an argument about having it follow the budget year, that it would be easier to track since obviously the mowing is taking place, you know, spring, summer, fall. As far as the comments that were made with them taking over and the way that it fell and the additional expenses, just for the record, it was actually a dry season, or a dry spell, I should say, a drought in May, I believe, because it really affected everybody's planting, right? May and just into the beginning of June, a lot of crops got planted late, at least gardens did, because of how dry it was. People were having a hard time keeping things alive, and then the whole entire rest of the summer was constant rain, and the grass never died. It didn't even die in that first drought because it was so early in the season. You know, normally we have dead grass in July. My grass never died this last summer. And frankly, there was a lot of times I couldn't mow because my yard was too wet from all the rain. So I think that, you know, we have several years that Melissa provided as to the expenses that we've had. I don't think that this was a typical year, not for anybody that was doing lawn mowing because of how wet it was. So, you know, keep it in mind, yes, but I don't think that it's going to be that easy to say next time we do a budget that because we spent that much this year, that next year is going to be the same. I have a feeling, unless something crazy happens, that the expenses we have for next year are going to go back and settle down closer to where they were previously.
Well, technically, if we're arguing about mowing contract, it could be from May 1st to November 31st. That would cover the mowing. That would take 5 months of the year out completely.
But I think we have had bills in April before, haven't we?
Yeah. Sure did. April 24th, April 28th, May 5th,
Yeah.
11th, 19th, 26th, and 31st.
Right.
April first to May
So-
fifteenth.
All right. So we're in additional work. Let's go back up to where we are and move on. We're at additional work, which is halfway through number 1.
Other than the change I mentioned before, I don't see anything on that line.
Anybody else? How about the one below it? Any additional work authorized by township board will be billed at the rate of $90 an hour. I don't see anything. If we approve it, that's fine. Right?
Yeah.
So we're at number 2.
Okay, I don't see anything there. That's pretty standard form.
You guys, anything? Number 3, independent contractor. You
Well, I realize on I'm sorry, go ahead.
you said you had something that was
Yeah.
wrong in there.
I do, and I apologize. I can't hear everybody clearly. this way, so I apologize if I talk over. I'm not trying to do that. I just really can't hear everybody at the end of the table. So for independent contractors, this is pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, we're not going to do any kind of liability coverage, and that's all stipulated here, FICA, all that good stuff. The only thing I have a question about is the very last line. On demand, you shall provide township with proof that such payments have been made. Obviously, once we get to this point, if we're providing a 1099 that's going to the IRS, they're getting a copy of it. They're required by the IRS to do what they need to do. I know that's probably standardized, but that line kind of stuck out to me. Don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that.
I don't think it, it seems to be something people want to add in the last 2 years, but there's nothing that's our responsibility. Our responsibility ends. We give them the 1099 with the federal government, their company files their taxes, and their taxes are their business, and they're really none of our business.
So when I give this back to Justin, I will ask if that needs to be on there. There might be some rules that says they gotta prove to us that they're paying the taxes, or we end up having to pay them. So I don't know.
If it's a 1099, I don't know. I mean, I would agree with that, to check with him. I just.
Otherwise,
just
we'll remove it.
Of course, as it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got a note that I've got the line circled that do we need it? If not, remove it.
Okay.
You agree?
because we haven't made nobody else do that.
Right.
We have no contracts out there that we require people to do that.
We're only talking about one line. On
Mhm.
demand, you shall provide township, not half the paragraph.
Right.
Okay.
No, the rest of it's standard fare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll pay their own taxes.
Right,
We're not
right.
paying none of that.
Right.
Mm.
It says,
So we're only going from on demand, you shall provide township with proof that such payments have been made. That's the line we're gonna take out of there.
Yeah.
Unless
Right.
it has to be.
So this piece up here that says including, okay, I just wanna understand this. So you'll pay all tax incurred while performing services under this agreement. We agree that should be there. Including all income taxes, if you are not a corporation, the self-employment taxes. On demand, you will provide the township with proof that such payments have been made. You know what? We're not entitled for them to have to surrender their taxes. That's what you're talking about when you give me all the Google eyes, but there's nothing that says.
We're telling them that they have to pay those taxes, and I'm saying that the words on demand, you shall provide township proof of such payment, I will take off there as long as there isn't some law out there that made Justin type that in there.
I think that's agreeable.
Yes, I do too. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Terms. All right, so what do you wanna do with the mowing? You wanna do from then, instead of June, change to, what, April?
I don't know that we could technically do that big of a revamp without rebidding. I think for the time being, we should just, I know we're over for this year, but I don't think they're gonna start until the next year starts anyway in April. So I just don't know that we could change the terms like that, because remember when we were going over the contract for the sexton, one of these questions came up and Justin was present for that, and he said, you can change this, but if you change this, it's gonna change the whole process and you're gonna have to rebid.
Because it's the terms of the agreement we're
Right.
changing, and that's what,
Yeah,
that's the problem.
I think we need to let it ride as is.
I mean, right now, if we have one more cut yet this year, actually ends up being almost to cut up the leaves and push them back into the woods, more than anything. But then when it comes to the spring,
All All right, then the confidentiality,
Are we leaving it then June
yeah,
first?
right, we're gonna
May
leave it there.
31st of 2024.
Right. Confidentiality, anything in that paragraph?
I think I'm good.
You?
I mean, to be fair, I think I had a question about that in the Sexton contract as well, because, you know, it's pretty, it's pretty vague, right? Like, or what that actually means. So, again, I think it's kind of standard fare in the way that this contract is developed. It reads very similarly to the one that we had for the Sexton.
How about,
You know.
how about records?
But, I'm sorry?
Number
You
6.
mean- Oh, sorry. I think I'm good.
You? Anybody? Got anything? How about number 7?
When you say records, no, back up. When you say records, it says any records or documents, copies, summaries, disc, or anything, when they're done, they're supposed to give that to us. Well, they have to keep the records they actually have when it comes right down to the IRS. They can't surrender their books to us. And as I read this, that's exactly what you're talking about. Any documents, any records or other documents, including copies, summaries, or disc, or electronic. So they're not gonna surrender the contract they had, because if the IRS comes back in the next 6 years, they need that. That seems,
Do we need it?
they will.
The whole, no, I mean the whole paragraph.
To me, I don't even under.
I mean, you would need like the monthly.
This is something that would have been in the cemetery contract, but when we're talking about cutting the grass here, it's not rocket science. That paragraph needs to be terminated. They're not gonna give us their contract, they're not gonna give us their invoicing.
We have all that anyway.
I
We
know,
don't need to have.
but
that.
according to this, we're saying that's what they're gonna do.
Well, I think this, they're talking about anything that they would get from the township, but you're right, I don't think it pertains to mowing the grass.
Correct.
I think this is something that's in a general contract. Let me ask Justin, and if we don't need it as mowing the lawn, we'll take it out of there.
Because even when it comes to the confidentiality, we're talking about grass cutting, we're not talking about hall rentals, we're not talking about somebody getting in this building and having access to anything. We're talking about really simple, they're gonna cut the grass, and when they're done, they go home, and next week when it needs to be done, they come back. They don't have any personal information on this township anyway.
Right.
Number 7. This is basically telling them that you understand that neither you nor your employees or contract personnel are eligible to participate in the pension, health, vacation pay,
I'd name that paragraph 6, if the other paragraph.
I will take 6 out only if Justin tells me we can.
Thank
And then they will be renumbered. You will see it before it goes anywhere. Workman's compensation. Again,
I think it's fine.
That covers under our own liability, isn't it?
right.
So that,
We're just basically stating that the township shall not obtain workman's compensation.
but you would need it if you have somebody that cuts the grass that wants a W-2 versus the 1099, then you would almost need something like that.
Do we need any changes in number 8?
But this has hit your name at the top of it, so this is your contract.
But basically, we're telling them
Yeah.
that they don't
Right.
receive any workman's compensation from the township.
And if you hire
Right.
anybody to come and cut the grass, because you cannot cut the grass, you're required to provide their workers' comp, is what it's saying.
So do we need to change anything in 8?
I would say
I don't believe so.
You? Anybody here? Unemployment compensation, same thing, the township
Yeah.
isn't going to provide any of that. I think that paragraph is fine too.
I have no comments on any of that, I'm fine.